Give a specific example of how language mediates reality from a personal experience. A personal example of how language mediated my reality happened when I was young. My parents asked me if I wanted to accompany them to a friend's house and told me they had a child named Carter who was about the same age as me. I decided to go, but upon my arrival, I was shocked to see that Carter was a girl. Upon hearing the name, I assumed the individual was a boy, but upon further inspection, I was deemed wrong. I was quite young, so I didn't have the forethought of asking my parents anything before the meeting. Thus, this is how language mediated my reality. Social media platforms like Snapchat and Instagram diminish the role of language in favor of pictures, and they are a means by which people express themselves and stay in touch with friends and family. Are they therefore a more effective means by which we can discover a true selfhood, defined by Kierkegaard? I don't believe that social media is the way to discover our true selfhood. Social media only allows us to see a small fraction of the person's life. The pictures don't really explain the reality of the situation. For example, let's say a person posts a picture of themselves smiling on Instagram. However, in reality, the person is actually sad. Wouldn't this mean that what we see in social media could be considered an illusion? Society enforces that we must smile and be happy in pictures to be accepted. Kierkegaard talks about this and says that this is an illusion. Photos these days are photoshopped, so we don't actually know whether or not what we see is real. Celebs often photoshop to make sure they fit the image that society approves of, and thus civilians are often influenced by this as well. Thus, social media is not an effective way to find our true selfhood. Review Kierkegaard's definition of what it means to be a hero. Why is it more challenging than you might think? Kierkegaard believed that the definition of a hero is a person who faces the risk of uncertainty and still holds them accountable instead of blaming others. Though it may sound quite simple, it is much harder to apply in practical life. Humans don't like to risk anything to ensure their safety. For example, a doctor has to do an emergency surgery where there are two patients. However, if he chooses one patient over the other patient, the percentage of chance of that patient surviving increases, and the chance that both patients survive is quite low. What does the doctor do? Does he take a risk to save both patients, or does he save one patient? Either way, there's a chance that both patients can die. What would you do? If the doctor were to follow Kierkegaard's definition of a hero, they would take the risk and try to save both the patients. However, they would have to live with the consequences of their choice. Either way, the patients could have died or survived. So do you think that you can live with the death on your hands? Humans would rather not risk anything and change, but instead remain tangent and stay the same. This is why it's more challenging to follow this definition of heroism. How would Kierkegaard respond against someone who might argue that taking a leap of faith is unwise and foolish? Alright, never mind. So Kierkegaard believed that not being your true self was despair. He wanted us to make our own decisions and become who we want to be rather than what society dictates of us. People who say that the leap of faith is unwise are too afraid to be themselves and concern themselves with the society's morals rather than their own. They can't face the risk of uncertainty and hold themselves accountable. To become who you really are, you need to take a leap of faith outside of society's norms and invest in your own set of morals. Describe a time when you've taken a Kierkegaardian leap of faith where the results were negative. In grade 6, I tried for my school basketball team, and though I really wasn't that good, I wanted to try new things, so I approached it with an open mind and decided to just try my best. In my defense, I had only started playing for a couple of months, so the idea of making the team certainly was a bit far fetched. I tried out and unfortunately didn't make it. I was quite disappointed, but what can we do? What did you learn? I learned that sometimes things don't happen in your favor and that it's just life. I also learned that to be better at something, I have to practice more and train even harder. What would have happened if you didn't take the leap of faith? If I didn't take the leap of faith, I would have never had the drive to practice more or to hone my craft. My attitude would have not changed and my confidence would have not been better. You learn from your mistakes and become stronger. If I didn't take the leap of faith, I would remain tangent and never improve. Was taking the leap a mistake? Taking the leap was not a mistake. The very next year, due to my practice, I made the basketball team. And this would not have been possible if I didn't take the leap of faith the previous year. It helped boost my confidence and made me realize that I had to train even harder, and thus, because of my training, I got the results I desired.